Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome back to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is dedicated by Shana Ishal in loving memory of her uncle, Lilu Nishmat Alex Yaakov Ben Yosef HaKohen, Alav Shalom, on his first Askara. Also dedicated in honor of Nathan Lowe. For all the good he does for Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, dedicated by Charlie Darwish and family. To be clear, we have more than one Charlie Darwish in this synagogue. This is the Charlie Darwish from Israel, who is Zocheh to have and who was mentioned L'Shem Tiferet yesterday. Okay. Also, the week of breakfast and class is dedicated in honor of Esther and Joshua Chakshur on the birthday of baby girl this past Thursday, Maurice and Judy Chosh. Mazal Tov Mubarak. Also dedicated for this week and breakfast in the class for the Refuah Shlema of Faivel Baruch Ben Deborah, Fred Gross, sponsored by Rebecca and Stephen Betesh and family. Refuah Shlema Bekarov Mamash. Also dedicated in loving memory of Randy Abdan and Nishmat Rina Bat Esther, sponsored by her brother Michael Abdan. Also sponsored by Matthew Stein, dedicated in honor of Rabbi Shlomo Farhi. On this sign it says that I'm the best rabbi in the world. There's other signs that say other things, but on this sign, thank you very much, Matthew. I really appreciate it. Again, my minhag is always to show it up to... All right. Also dedicated by Stephen Rappaport, the Breakfast King, dedicated in honor of Soli Asa for his mitzvah leading the 6:30 a.m. with Minyan with elegant diction, superb cantillation, and a soothing lyric tenor voice. In other words, in the way it was intended to be. Shtabach Shemo. Also dedicated for Refuah Shlema of Eliyahu Shlomo Zar Fortuné and Chaim Rafael Ben Frida for the continued health of Chana Bat Vega, and dedicated loving memory of Vivian Bailey, Lilu Nishmat Chaya Bat Shoshana, sponsored by her nephew Aaron Bailey, and dedicated loving memory of Nishmat Leah Ini's mother Shulamit Bat Aziza on her yahrzeit, sponsored by Leah Ini. And yesterday we had the Arayat for Big Sin for Cynthia Harari, Alea Shalom Simcha Bat Salha, in the finishing of her year. We wish the family, of course, comfort as they transition from the year of mourning into Be'ezrat Hashem, a time of only simcha, only joy, and only good things. Okay, let's begin. The pasuk says that Avraham Avinu came to bury Sara Imenu, Vayavo Avraham lispod l'Sara v'livkota. He came to cry for Sarah v'livkota, and to eulogize Sarah, v'livkota, and to cry for her. Now, of course, the timing of Shiva is a time of tremendous sadness, a time when people miss somebody, a time where the shock is setting in, and ironically also, it can be a time of tremendous friendship and tremendous support. So whereas the time of Shiva is almost always associated with a very sad thing and a very sad time, but in truth, when a person is there for somebody in those moments of sadness, whether it's the family members, whether it's friends, whether it's the community, the impact it makes on a person when they're in that vulnerable state is very, very powerful and very special. Zocheh to be there for my dear friend Didier. We were zocheh to be together twice in moments of difficulty. For your father and for your mother, Alehem HaShalom, they were wonderful. Te'en Nishmatam Eden. If they were able to see your family from down here on earth, of course they can't see from Shamayim, but they would be so proud to see how the family is growing, and the children, Be'ezrat Hashem, getting married, having families. It's very, very special. Baruch Hashem. So, this is it's a difficult time, but it's also a special time. And I always love to say that not only do people mourn their parents or the person at a Shiva, but to a large degree, they also get to meet them. What do I mean by that? The pasuk says, V'liv kota, and Abraham came for Sarah, and he came to cry for her. But in the word v'liv kota in the Torah, there's one letter in that word which is written with a very small letter, and in the Torah scrolls, you'll see if you open the Torah, it doesn't say v'liv kota straight. the letter Chaf is written with a very small letter Chaf, almost as if when you're looking at it from far, it looks like it says Vil'ulibita, because you can't see the Chaf, it's very small. So we've already described and discussed this numerous times, the fascinating interpretations on what Vil'ulibita means, that Sara Imenu had a daughter, and the daughter also passed away, and he was now mourning for Sara and for his daughter. Whole pshat, understanding exactly what this means. However, Rashi does not get involved with what it does, with what it looks like it does say. Rashi seems to busy himself only with what is not there. And what is not there? What's not there is the rest of the letter Chaf. Letter Chaf could have been a normal size, and here it was small. Rashi says to teach you that he did not cry excessively for Sara Imenu. And the question all the commentators want to know is why not? I remember once I was at a wedding, and please only answer amen if you're listening to this live. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol nihiyad baro. Once I was at a wedding, and the bride under the chuppah looked miserable. But not like she had a stomach ache. Not like, she looked like the last place on earth she wanted to be was under the chuppah with this guy. Now I've seen kalot crying, but they're crying because they're praying, they're crying because they're moved, right? You see something like that. Sorry? Or if her parents were not there, But it was so stark that not only did I notice it, numerous people mentioned it at the wedding. First of all, I just want you to know, the end of that story is that they're still together and they have lots of kids. But the point is, rumors, the way things look, a lot of times it's not a proof. However, if you see someone that's not crying at the funeral, what do you think? What's going on? In fact, we just learned the Masechet Moed Katan, and I have a couple pictures for the people that are listening. Number one, we're about 1.5 daf away from finishing. We're going to start a new Masechet. The reason why I'm telling you that is not so that you jump in on a free siyum. The reason why I'm telling you that is that you should jump in on a new Masechet. So very soon we're starting a new Masechet. We want to see people that are joining. It's Sunday morning at 10:15 and Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. for the moment, by consensus. Okay, 6 p.m. On Tuesday and Thursday. So please join us for this new Masechet. So we just learned in the Masechet, very interesting law, that when someone is sitting in Shiva, during that time, you're not supposed to put a baby in their lap. And the Gemara says the reason why the Avel is not supposed to hold a baby. What happens when you hold a baby? All of a sudden you're laughing with the baby, you're cooing with the baby smiles, you smile back at the baby. People walking in see someone sitting Shiva, big smile on their face. They're laughing. What does it look like? They don't care about the fact that this person passed away. So it becomes something of a negative thing. If a person is not crying, it becomes a negative thing. So Avraham Avinu, by not crying a lot, surely that would have been disrespect for Sara Imenu, as if there wasn't enough to cry about. We see that Yitzchak, as we mentioned yesterday, does not get consoled for his mother for anything until Rivka comes in. And she comes in, so to speak, as a supplement, as a change to stand in instead of understudy for Sara Imenu. Yitzchak is not. He's not satisfied. He's not. So why does it say over here, V'livkota, that it was small? So I saw a magnificent answer. Midesh and Betecha brings a story about a certain fellow who passed away on Chol HaMoed. What's the law if someone passes away on Chol HaMoed? The Shiva begins after the holiday ends. Okay? But not only that, there's also a law that says that you're not allowed to eulogize on Chol HaMoed. We just learned this halakha. What did they do in order to make sure that there were no eulogies? They didn't even put the casket on the ground. So they would have to keep it, holding it in the air. That way, all the guys holding the casket, the guy starts to talk, they're like, Hajj, I'm sitting holding the item, it's heavy. It would cause that there would be no eulogies. So, unless the guy's a big Talmid Chacham, we rule today, halachically by the way, that practically no Talmid Chacham has the qualifications to make that necessary. So even Talmidei Chachamim today, what's the halakha? Unless the person is like the Gadol Ador, right? We say that doesn't count, and they don't do the eulogies, they do it after. Anyway, this person, the eulogies, they went to the rabbi, and Rav Steinman ruled, like I just told you, that unless he's a Gadol Ador, you don't do the eulogies on Chol HaMoed. Save it for after. Okay? After the holiday, they come to this Rabbi Levenstein, and they tell him, please, Dachilak, we want you to eulogize this, the rabbi now, this person. So he went to Rabbi Elyashiv, and he says, what do you think I should say? So Rabbi Elyashiv said to him something very interesting. He said, people think, when they go to a funeral, that the important thing is to be able to talk so positively about this person, to hold them up on a pedestal to such a degree, to say such things about them that you can't even begin to imagine what it is. You don't even recognize who the person they're talking. Wow, I didn't know. This guy really? I had no idea. I remember once I was at a funeral and the rabbi got up and he's talking about how this guy loved shul. Loved going to shul. Shul was so important to him. So close to his heart. I'm sitting opposite the row of the mourners. All the mourners burst into uncontrollable laughter. Obviously, the guy hated shul, right? To say something like that when it's not true, actually we know, causes the neshama tremendous pain in Shamayim. In fact, when the neshama is up there and she's being judged in the heavenly court says, it says right over here that you love shul. You love shul so much, let's go check if you love shul so much. It brings out a judgment on the person. Not only in the funeral, but also in the words that they choose for the tombstone. And that's why the words that people choose needs to be done carefully, slowly, weighing every word. We don't add an extra word, extra anything. I remember once, someone asked me, why is it that on the tombstones, we etch into the tombstone all these different signs? Now just so you know, pictures. Just so you know, the pictures on the tombstones, they mean something. Each one means something. In fact, just a moment to say something. Whoever's out there, on the 23rd of November until the 27th of November, so that's the week of Thanksgiving, Be'ezrat Hashem, I'll be leading a trip to Poland with Ari Sharf and Rabbi Reuven Abragamov. If you've never been, and even if you have been, you should come with me, Be'ezrat Hashem, then. Okay? It's a fantastic experience. It's something that you will not believe how you feel when you come back. People tell me all the time, Rabbi, it's too emotional, it's negative, I don't need that negative energy in my life right now. The opposite, you'll come back on fire. Like you can't believe, that is my, I can't guarantee it, but that's my, what I'm telling you, what happens on these trips. So please let us know, join us. We have an intimate trip, beautiful, very comfortable, beautiful buses, nice places to stay, excellent food. We're not slumming it. We're going to go and we're going to do it right. When you don't sell a 5-star luxury trip to Auschwitz, but still, if you're going to be running from place to place, you need the koach. You have to sleep. You have to eat. So we really do it right. So please join us for this trip. When we get there, by the way, one of the things I'll point out is this exact thing. In the cemetery, you see two hands like this on a gravestone. Automatically, without any words, the guy's a Kohen. Okay? If you see at the top of the tombstone two candlesticks, it's a woman. They're like the Shabbat candles. That's the symbolism. If you see a tzedakah, a hand with another hand like this, the person was a big Baal tzedakah. So there's various things that were symbolic. If you see a washing cup and hands, what do you know? The guy's a Levi. So all of these symbols were designed so that you would know who the person was. So I asked the group, why do you need pictures? What was this? IKEA furniture manuals that you need to have pictures? You can't have words? You want to tell me he's Levi? What do you say? Natan, Aharon, Levi. After 150 years, you're going to go extra. You're going to have 120 years plus extra percentage, inshallah. Right? What will it say? It says the Halevi. It says HaKohen. Right? That's what it says. So then why do you need to put these symbols on if you could have written it? And the answer is because writing it carries a risk. It brings out judgment on the soul of the person. Was he a good Levi? Did he neglect his Levite duties? He's a Kohen. Well, did he give the Be'achot the proper way? Was he a proper role model? Oh, the guy, Baal Tzedakah. So instead of writing Baal Tzedakah, they just drew a picture of a hand giving. So that was a way of being able to minimize the excess that people say. So he said to the rabbi, you're going to say a eulogy on this guy, make sure you say the minimum that's true. That was his instructions. The minimum that's true. That's what the neshama wants. You're saying extra. You should know, imagine the soul begging you, stop talking. Please, you're getting me in trouble. Says the pasuk, unbelievable. Pshat from the Mateh Yehuda. He said that no matter what Avraham said about Sarah, no matter how long his eulogy, no matter how sparkling his descriptions, no matter how much he cried, for who Sarah was, it was still less than who she was. You know the symbol with the little alligator mouth, right? In the equation, less than, the more than. Whatever he said, less than Sarah Imenu. What a wild idea. The libkotad doesn't mean that Avraham cried too little. It doesn't mean that he wasn't crying. It doesn't mean that people looked and said, what's going on over here? He looks a little bit happy, she's gone. You know, maybe he's not crying enough. His wife passed away. No, that's not what it means. It means that no matter what, there was nothing Avraham could say that was ever going to be enough for his liv kota to be appropriate, the right size for her. How magnificent is that? Yishtabach Shemo. My friends, the rabbi mentioned, Rav Steinman, he said, you know, he was at a funeral once about a fellow who used to go travel the whole world to raise money for yeshivot, for Torah, for good mitzvot. The guy was a one-man chesed raising, fundraising, tzedakah raising machine. Anyway, everyone got up at the funeral, and they're all saying how the guy is amazing, his midah of chesed, how much he did for everybody, what a l'shem shamayim, ba. And the rabbi said, and I personally, as a rabbi, I knew the reason why the guy was traveling arba kanfot haaretz, to the four corners of earth, was because he could not stand being at home. The guy had shalom bayit issues, So he became this big tzaddik that's not home 11 and a half months in the year. His meat was not l'shem shamayim. Maybe l'shem shamayim not to fight with his wife, in the house. But it was not for the tzedakah, and if it was not for the yeshiva, the guy was very happy. Everyone else comes back from a failed trip. They didn't raise money, failure. This guy comes back with no money, success. So you're saying all these things, not true. And it made me think, this line, v'liv kota, to cry for her, is not enough. Made me think. A lot of times people ask, they ask you when you're living your life, one of the ways that they get you to think about it is to ask, what do you want them to say at your funeral? Yeah, what do you want them to, what's going to be written on your tombstone? I see what we're learning over here is very different. Nathan is pointing out Alfred Nobel. Nobel was someone who was the inventor of dynamite. But we know him as the Nobel Peace Prize. And eventually the Nobel Prize. The question is, what does that have to do with the other? And the answer is that one day, Nobel saw an obituary for his brother, but they made a mistake and they wrote his name. Now, as the inventor of dynamite, what was his number one contribution to the world? Death, war, killing. All of a sudden, he came face to face with what they would say about him, through what they said about him. He said to himself, it can't be that this is what I'm going to be remembered for. So he thought and thought, how can he leave a different legacy? And he created the Nobel Prize to reward advancements in science and this, that, and the other, in peace. Unfortunately, he didn't live to see that the people who got his prize, chief amongst them, Arafat and Obama. Arafat for only causing war and death, and Obama pretty much the same. Got his Peace Prize 3 minutes after he became president, after he did absolutely nothing for it. My friends, I want you to understand that Nobel came to grips with the fact, not what are they going to say about you, so because you're worried about your honor at the funeral. You're dead already. At that point, least of your worries is what's getting said. Not for the kavod, but rather, what will it have meant that your whole life was about? So Hashem Ya'azor, the question is not only what are they going to say and what they're going to write. From what we're learning today, the question is also, when they say what they say, will it have been enough to communicate the extent of your impact in the world while you lived? Will it be true? We said yesterday, this concept of Hagar, that Hagar was called Yuchni by Rabbi Tarfon, because she wasn't the same outside as she was inside. Outside, what was she? Very perfect. Inside, very different. Sarah Imenu was the opposite. When the angels asked Avraham, where's Sarah? What did Avraham say? Hine ba'ohel. Ayesa ishtecha. Hine, she is, behold, she is in the tent. The blessing of Sarah was not out on the street. Was not when she was in public. Her greatest blessing was ba'ohel, in the inside. How she was when no one was looking. So when Avraham Avinu, when it says v'liv kota, that nothing he could say about it would have ever been enough, that idea is representative of the fact that a person has made this level, this kind of impact in their life. I want to also share one last piece. I like to ask people to do this at least once a year. It doesn't sound that often, which is why I think maybe you'll take it on. At least once a year, do a mitzvah that nobody knows about. Not only nobody knows about, yani, you didn't broadcast it from the top of the mountain. Name and lights. Honor. But nobody knows about. Not your children, not your wife, not your friends. Unfortunately, your accountant will probably figure it out. Maybe figure out a way where you could do it where even your accountant won't figure it out. Cash is king. People used to do this in Israel. They would walk into a makolet and they would just say quietly to the person running the makolet, who's the biggest family that you have here, the most children? And they would pay off their bill. They have no idea who it is. The guy has no idea who you are. The person running the store has no idea who you are. And then what do you do with that mitzvah? You take it to your grave. V'liv kota are the mitzvot that nobody knows that you did. So that when they cry for you, it won't have been enough because they didn't cover everything. I'm not asking once a week, once a day, once a year. Yesterday, I was at a beautiful Pidyon Aben, Leon and Denise Aburi, with their son. And the Kohen, I'm not going to say his name because you'll see in a minute. He says one day his father walked in and there's a bandage on. He said, "What's this bandage?" He tried getting out of the thing until finally he had to tell them he gave his kidney away. He didn't give 101 at the Torah. He gave one of two. Of his kidney. The guy gave his kidney. It didn't tell his wife and children. I mean, sometimes that happens when people travel to Mexico, but not on purpose. You hear me? What an act of kindness that nobody knew about. They didn't tell anybody for. Literally a piece of himself. And that even the accountant doesn't know. I mean, obviously the doctors know. So you still, you gotta play some games. Figure it out. Guy Luck checks into the hospital with a fake ID. They remove his liver. They come back after, like, this is fake. They're like blaming on Rabbi Farhi. People getting arrested for drug trafficking, they trace it back, it comes to breakfast in the class. My friends, not drug trafficking, organ trafficking is what I meant. This is a beautiful idea, V'liv kota. Now maybe on the grandest part of the scale, the guy gave away a kidney, he didn't say anything. That's why I'm not saying what the guy's name is, I'm trying to protect the mitzvah of grandest scale. But how about on a tiny scale? If you're a child out there listening to this, how many times is the house a little bit messy? You know your mother's coming home, it's late, she'll be frazzled. She's going to come home and still clean up the kitchen. What does it take to spend 2 minutes, throw out the garbage that your brothers and sisters who ate like animals, live in a barn, left everything out, right? Just to throw it away. If you sweep the floor in your kitchen before your mother gets home, so she doesn't have to do it. You took the garbage out because it's Monday night, and you know your mom's going to do it when she comes home. You know who will notice that the garbage is empty? Nobody notices that the garbage is empty. You only notice the garbage is overflowing. Take out the garbage. Sweep the floor. What can we do for our kids, for our parents, or for our spouses, and not say anything? In most marriages, exactly the opposite. Wife gets home, she walks in, husband standing there like a king. Wife says, how's everything? Good. You don't see anything different? He took one plate, threw it in the garbage. Had that wants a Nobel Peace Prize. Right? So what is it? He says, I cleaned up the whole kitchen. You don't see? Something she does 50,000 times in her lifetime. Never came to her husband and said, you know what I did today? You don't notice anything different? Yeah, you have laundry. To not point it out, to let it be that no matter what they say about you, there will be things that they missed. Because nobody knows. How precious are those kindnesses and those mitzvot? My friends, your mission, should you choose to accept it. Is that the right one? Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to do mitzvot, ma'asim tovim, that only you and God are aware of. May Hashem bless us, Be'ezat Hashem, to do the mitzvot for the right reasons, in which case we'll become experts, ninjas, at this beautiful process. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen. Rabbi